Somewhere in rural India, in 1907, a single tigress killed 436 people. Her name became legend. Entire villages emptied when she moved through the forest. Crops rotted in the fields because no one dared to go outside. She was finally hunted down by a man named Jim Corbett. He tracked her for weeks. He put her down with a rifle, and then the entire region let out a breath it had been holding for years. But here's the part nobody talks about. After they killed her, nobody ate her. They had the body, they had hungry villages, and not one person touched the meat. Most people assume that is obvious. She was dangerous. She was a killer. Of course you wouldn't eat her, but that is not actually the reason. Because it turns out, whether you kill a man-eating tiger, a great white shark, or a crocodile that has swallowed a human being, the answer is almost always the same. Nobody eats them. And the reasons go so much deeper than fear. They go into your biology, into your evolution, into a system inside your own body that was built specifically because of animals like her. Stay until the end of this video, because the last part is going to change how you see your own instincts. Let's start with the most obvious question. Why don't we just eat predators? They're big. They're made of meat. Humans eat everything else on the planet. So why not them? The first answer is practical. Predators are expensive to eat, not in money, in biology. Here's the thing about being at the top of a food chain. Every single calorie a predator eats has already been filtered through multiple other bodies. A shark doesn't just eat fish. It eats fish that ate smaller fish, that ate shrimp, that ate plankton. And at every single step of that chain, something toxic is being concentrated. It's called biomagnification, and it is the hidden poison inside every apex predator on Earth. Here is how it works. Tiny organisms absorb trace amounts of toxins from the water or the soil. A small fish eats thousands of those organisms. The fish can't flush those toxins out, so they accumulate. Then a bigger fish eats thousands of those small fish, and the toxins accumulate again. Then a predator at the top eats thousands of those bigger fish, and now the toxins are so concentrated, they can literally shut down a nervous system. In great white sharks, mercury levels are so extreme that a single meal of shark meat can exceed the safe human limit by a factor of 10. Researchers at the University of Florida tested apex ocean predators in 2013 and found mercury concentrations up to 45 times higher than the legal safety threshold for human consumption. In polar bears, the situation is even more extreme. Their livers are so loaded with vitamin A from a lifetime of eating seals that a single bite of polar bear liver can kill an adult human. Arctic explorers died from this. They thought they were surviving. They thought they were eating. They were poisoning themselves from the inside. This is why Inuit hunters who lived beside polar bears for thousands of years had a strict rule. Never eat the liver. Never let your dogs eat it either, because the dogs would die too. You cannot cook your way out of this. You cannot boil mercury out of meat. You cannot fry away bioaccumulated toxins. They are in the tissue. They are part of the animal. And the longer that animal lived at the top of the food chain, the more lethal it is to eat. So even if you killed a man-eating lion or a great white shark that had attacked humans, the meat would already be working against you before you took the first bite. But that is only one layer of this. There is something else living inside every predator that is even more dangerous: parasites. Carnivores carry parasites that herbivores don't. This is not random. It is logical. When you eat plants, you're consuming something that has very few complex biological systems. When you eat another animal, you are consuming an entire ecosystem. And that ecosystem contains things that want to live inside a new host. One of the most studied is Trichinella spiralis. It is a parasitic worm, and it lives almost exclusively in the muscle tissue of carnivores and omnivores. When the Romans first encountered it, they had no idea what it was. They just knew that certain meats made people violently ill. We didn't identify the actual worm until 1835, when a British pathologist named James Paget found it coiled inside human muscle tissue during a dissection. He was a medical student at the time. He was 20 years old, and what he found inside that body would become one of the most important discoveries in the history of food safety. Trichinella can survive cooking temperatures that most people consider safe. It can embed itself in muscle and stay dormant for years. In severe cases, it migrates to the heart and the brain. In predators that have been eating infected prey their entire lives, it is everywhere. Then there is Toxoplasma, a parasite so common among carnivores that researchers estimate some species of big cats have infection rates above 90%. Toxoplasma doesn't just make you sick, it rewires behavior. Studies have shown it changes how infected rats respond to the smell of cat urine. Instead of fleeing, they are drawn to it. They essentially walk toward the predator. In humans, the research is still developing, but the evidence is building that Toxoplasma changes reaction times, risk tolerance, and possibly even personality over years of low-grade infection. You eat a man-eating predator, and the parasite inside it may quietly begin rewriting you from the inside. But even beyond the chemistry, even beyond the parasites, there is something even older at work. Something that lives inside you right now. Your disgust reflex. Scientists have studied disgust as a biological system for decades. The leading theory, developed by psychologist Paul Rozin at the University of Pennsylvania in the 1980s, is that disgust is an evolved protection system. It is your body's ancient food safety department, and it has very specific triggers. Things that rot, things that are associated with disease, things that are associated with death, and crucially, things that are associated with animals that could kill you. Rozin called it the animal reminder effect. When something reminds you that you are biological, that you are vulnerable, that you are made of meat just like everything else, your disgust response activates. And predators that eat humans hit all of these triggers at once. They are dangerous, they carry disease, and they represent the most direct confrontation with your own mortality. The animal that reminds you that you are prey. Your brain responds by making the meat seem revolting, even if you are hungry, even if there is nothing else to eat. This is not a cultural invention, it is a biological emergency brake that evolution built into you. It kept your ancestors alive. Because the ancestors who thought eating a man-eating predator was a great idea often died from what they ate, and the ones who felt revulsion survived. You are descended from the ones who felt revulsion, which means that reflex is inside you right now. But here's what's fascinating. Some cultures did eat man-eaters, and the reasons why tell us something extraordinary about human psychology. In parts of sub-Saharan Africa, killing and ritually eating a man-eating lion or leopard was not considered taboo. It was considered a transfer of power. The belief was that the animal had accumulated human strength by consuming human victims. By eating it, you reclaimed that strength. You took back what it had stolen. This was not desperate survival eating. It was ceremonial, deliberate, symbolic. Researchers studying these traditions, including anthropologist Garry Marvin in his 2006 work on human-predator relationships, noted that the act of eating the predator was always surrounded by ritual specifically designed to neutralize what the community called its dangerous essence. They knew something was different about the meat. They felt it. And they built entire ceremonies around managing that feeling. Even in cultures that ate the animal, they understood it required special treatment. They weren't wrong. They just didn't have the word biomagnification. Then there is the question of taste. Predator meat, by most accounts, tastes terrible. This is not coincidence. Muscle tissue in carnivores has a fundamentally different chemical composition than in herbivores. Herbivores store fat in their muscle. That fat is what makes meat tender, flavorful, and satisfying. Carnivores don't store fat the same way. Their muscles are lean, dense, and loaded with something called myoglobin, which gives the meat a strong, gamey, metallic flavor. And not just a little gamey. Lion meat has been described by the few people who have legally eaten it in jurisdictions where captive-bred animals are sold as intensely unpleasant. Tough, stringy, with an almost chemical aftertaste that is thought to come from the high concentration of metabolic waste products in the muscle tissue. Your tongue, just like your brain, has been calibrated by evolution. It is telling you something. This is not food. Even the crocodile, which is the predator most commonly eaten in places like Australia and parts of Africa, requires very specific preparation to make it palatable. And notably, the crocodiles most commonly consumed are not wild man-eaters. They are farmed, controlled, fed-managed diets specifically designed to change the composition of their meat, because wild crocodile meat from an animal that has lived at the top of a river ecosystem carries every toxin and every parasite from everything it ever ate. Now think about all of this together. Biomagnification concentrating toxins into lethal doses. Parasites that rewire behavior and attack the heart. An evolved disgust response that makes the meat seem revolting. A taste profile specifically calibrated to signal danger. and a cultural memory across almost every civilization on Earth that treats predator meat as different, dangerous, or forbidden. Every one of these systems is pointing in the same direction. Don't eat this. And here's the part that changes everything. You didn't build any of these systems yourself. You inherited them. Every one of them was built by thousands of generations of ancestors who encountered exactly this situation, who had a predator killed in front of them, who looked at the body and made a decision. The ones who ignored all the signals and ate it often didn't survive to pass on their genes. The ones who listened, who felt the wrongness, who walked away, those are your ancestors. That tigress in 1907 killed 436 people, but in a way, every predator that ever hunted early humans was shaping something. Not just fear, not just caution, but the actual architecture of your instincts. Your gut feeling when something seems wrong. Your automatic recoil from certain smells. Your deep, wordless sense that some things should not be eaten. These are not superstitions, they are messages, written across millions of years, sent forward through every single one of your ancestors, delivered directly to you. The predator didn't just try to eat your ancestors, it built you, the part of you that keeps you alive, the part that still knows without being told what you should never put in your mouth. It was shaped by the thing that hunted you, and that is the most unsettling thought of all. We think we chose not to eat our predators, but maybe they chose it for us.